just the most twisted case you ever heard. Well, I ain't never seen this one, I ain't gonna lie, so we're finna just hop straight into it.
On one cold and rainy night, 19-year-old Renisha McBride crashed her car on a Michigan street before hazily pulling herself from the wreck to look for help. Renisha was dealing with a concussion and a severe injury to her hand, but that wasn't all, and more would be uncovered about her mental state later. Despite this, Renisha made her way towards a nearby house and began banging on their door. Unfortunately, when the owner of the house finally opened the door, Renisha found herself facing the end of a shotgun.
Damn.
And the end of her life.
Damn.
On November 2nd, 2013.
Damn. So she get into a car accident and try to ask for help, and the first thing you get is your head blown off. But you're trying to ask for help. Damn, that's crazy. I mean, honestly, I would start screaming to call the cops, but like, damn, first thing you get is a shotgun. That's tough.
Dearborn Heights Police Department received a 911 call just after 4:30 a.m. from a man named Theodore Wafer.
I just shot somebody on my front porch.
Holy shit.
With a shotgun, banging on my door.
After ensuring that he on the night's
All right,
events.
What happened here? A consistent knocking on the door, and I'm trying to look through the windows, but every time I look through the windows in the door, it's banging somewhere else. So I opened up the door, kind of like, who is this? And the gun discharged. I didn't know there was a round in there.
Damn.
I don't get it. Who's knocking on your door at 4:30 in the morning? Bang, bang, bang. Somebody wanting in.
While Theodore may have claimed the whole incident was just a terrible accident, certain aspects of his story just weren't adding up, and detectives were determined to discover if they may actually be dealing with a cold-blooded killer.
Homeowner says there was somebody pounding on the door. He opened the door, like to say who the heck's out here, and his gun discharged and shot this black female in the head.
Shot her in the head, holy shit.
Rescue isn't here yet, but I'm pretty sure she's DOA.
Shot her in the head with the
According to
slugs.
the officer who severely damaged Renisha's head above her jaw, that she was pronounced dead on arrival.
Gee.
Theodore, still in a state of shock, was placed into a police cruiser while the scene was secured and documented.
Not really, I mean...
What's that, sir?
I said that, I don't know,
Let's sit tight a minute. See what we can figure out here.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
When Theodore first woke up to Renisha banging on his door, he
Look
may
at
have
Blood's
believed
crib.
there was potentially
Look at Blood's crib, bro. This man is a serial killer.
a dangerous force trying to get into his home. His body then may have gone into fight or flight and started to prepare for a potential threat by releasing adrenaline. This heightened state doesn't last for very long, and now that he's in the police cruiser, there's no possible threat against him anymore. With enough cursory information gathered, the police bring Theodore back to the station for questioning, and it isn't long before the cracks in his story begin to show.
I know you told the officers at the scene, but I need you to tell me now. Just give me the scenario of what happened tonight, in your own words.
Well, I don't really know how these proceedings work. I mean, am I being charged?
No. No, sir.
Should I have a lawyer present? That
would be entirely up to you.
I mean, this is a very serious matter. What just happened, I believe.
It is a serious matter to the young woman that's laying in your court. We have to do a thorough investigation, and we have.
Am I allowed back into my home now? I mean,
when the officers are done with the scene processing and when the ME removes the body, yes.
See, this is
So.
Theodore is very nervous and can be heard asking if he needs a lawyer present. If he did want a lawyer, this is an ineffective attempt at invoking his Miranda rights, as a request for an attorney must be clear and unequivocal. The officer is also being somewhat manipulative here, as he suggests that talking to him is no different than talking to the officers on the scene. While that might make sense at first, this is not the case. The primary job of the first responders is to secure the scene and gather basic information. During the interrogation, however, the detective will be probing much deeper and gathering information about Theodore's possible guilt. Currently, Theodore appears to be looking at the officer as a neutral party who can offer him support and guidance. However, it's important to remember the detective's ultimate goal in an interrogation is to secure a confession.
You made a statement to the guys at the scene.
Yeah, I heard noises, and it startled me, you know, what these noises were. These banging, prying noises. First on the side of the house, and then front of the house, back to the side of the house, then front of the house.
Given the time of day, he may have assumed the person had bad intentions, especially since Dearborn Heights is known for its high crime rate, with the average resident having a 1 in 55 chance of being a victim of a violent or property crime.
Come on now. I know that name. That shit ain't no high crime rate, no high crime rate city. Get the fuck up out of here. 1 in 55 chance. Y'all ass ain't no reason to be scared, white man. I ain't gonna lie. You don't know how it is, man. This man ain't got nothing to be worried about.
To compare, the national average violent crime rate in 2021 in the United States hovered around 400 cases per 100,000 of the population.
Oh yes, that's pretty.
People,
For the population, that's all
can't
right.
see that, you know, what's
But Buddy ain't
going
got
on
no
inside.
reason to be
Never
worried
got
in
one
his
door,
residency
noise is calling one other one.
or in his place of
the other side of the
where he
house.
live. He live in the fucking suburbs.
Well, I mean, at this point, are you getting frightened? Is your heart racing? What's going on?
Yes, I have no idea what's happening. It was getting louder. I thought at any time somebody was coming through the door or window. It was getting violent.
Where did you?
Persistent.
Okay.
Especially on the front door. Very persistent.
Theodore specifically states that he thought someone was going to come in through his door or window. This further displays his belief that there was an immediate threat to him that would justify Renisha's shooting. The defensive tone Theodore takes is also reflected in his body language. With his arms crossed in front of his chest, he's creating a barrier between himself and the detective. As the ramifications of his actions become more and more apparent, Theodore becomes insistent on defending his choices.
How are you holding the gun when discharged? I mean, tell me.
With both hands.
I mean, do you ever raise it? Do you have it? No.
No, it's a pistol grip, so you just have to lift it up. So open the door with one hand, and when I placed my other hand, just like that she went off. I didn't expect it.
Theodore may be trying to lessen his responsibility in Renisha's death by removing himself from the action. Saying it went off versus I pulled the trigger puts distance between him and the action and blames the gun rather than Theodore himself.
Okay, how hard were you holding the gun when it went off?
Waist, and it was on an angle. I was, as far as I can remember.
Do you think that when you were holding the gun that it was on an angle like this? Could it have been like this?
If I'm opening the door, I have, if I open the door,
Okay.
that quick. It's a pistol grip.
Here, the first cracks in Theodore's story start to show. He claims to have been holding the gun at waist height. However, when taking both Theodore's height and Renisha's height into consideration, he would have had to have been holding the gun at chest height, pointed straight out, in order to shoot Renisha in the head. This discussion about the gun placement is vital for the case. Holding the gun at his waist could mean that he was just reacting to the potential threat, and more likely it really was an accident. While holding it higher, at his chest height, it means that he could have been consciously aiming it, possibly with the intent to shoot. Based on what the detective has seen, he knows that Theodore is telling the truth about the way he was holding the gun. While it's entirely possible that Theodore is being deceptive in order to make the shooting seem more accidental, it's not unusual for individuals who are involved with a traumatic event to distinctly remember some parts, while other parts are fuzzy. This is one of the reasons that eyewitness reports are never as accurate as we think they should be. According to Michigan's Castle Doctrine, you're allowed to use deadly force on someone who's breaking into your home if it's necessary to prevent great bodily harm to yourself. Based on Theodore's own account of the night, By the time he grabbed his shotgun and decided he'd had enough, he wasn't in any immediate objective danger. This, alongside the fact that he opened the door up to the danger with the intention of dealing with it, could potentially negate the castle doctrine as a valid defense.
I don't even know. I did not look at the body. I didn't stand over it and see where the wound was. I immediately put down the weapon right there on the hallway, or, the entry to the front door, and looked for my phone. First called here, your Dearborn Heights. We're talking Boone. And Boone.
As he prepares to wrap up the interview, the detective brings someone else in to help ask one final question.
You have, where do we take your shotgun, shell casing?
We took your Mossberg. There was a spent shell casing in the shotgun, and you had your green shotgun case. We just tucked it in that and took the gun with it. There was one shell casing, so what? There was just one in it all the time, or what?
Yes, like I was just trying to explain, I couldn't remember if there was one in it or not. I kept my shells in a separate closet, so I got a little paranoid a few weeks back, got paintballed, so I maybe that's when I loaded it, put it in. I mean, I don't think I mentioned that to you, but I mean, that's what I put one in there or something like that. But I did not realize there was one in there, no.
Following Theodore's interview, the police spent quite some time digging through every aspect of the case to make sure there was no crucial detail left out. During this investigation, they found out some intriguing details regarding the hours leading up to Renisha's death. According to police records, a 911 call was placed just before 1 a.m. to report a no-injury accident where a woman who was driving under the influence had been speeding down the street and struck a parked car. Although the woman driving had clearly been disoriented and possibly confused when she got out of the car, she had left on foot and wandered away from the scene of the crime. Police didn't arrive on scene until they received a call stating that the driver had come back to the scene. Unfortunately, by the time cops and EMS responded, she was already gone again. This driver was Renisha McBride, and had anyone been able to stop her from wandering off in her delirious and drunken state, she may never have ended up on Theodore Wafer's front porch. On the flip side, some say Renisha would have never ended up on Theodore's porch if she hadn't been drinking and driving either. You'll notice that was a 3-hour difference between the time that the 911 call was placed about the car accident around 1 a.m. and Theodore's call to 911 at 4:30. To this day, it's unclear where Renisha was during this period of time, but her family believes she was disoriented from her head injury and seeking help. Theodore eventually received charges for murder in the second degree and manslaughter, as well as a felony firearm charge. While Theodore may have claimed that his gun accidentally misfired during his initial interview, this claim actually changed by the time he got to court. Instead, he and his lawyer were insisting that Theodore intentionally fired out of self-defense because he was scared that Renisha was trying to break in. Despite Michigan's castle doctrine, the judge ultimately ruled that nothing Renisha did was intense enough to justify Theodore being legitimately scared for his life. In the end, Theodore was found guilty on all charges on September 3, 2014, and received 15 to 30 years for his second-degree murder charge, 7 to 15 years for the manslaughter
Ain't enough.
charge, and finally,
Ain't
a
enough.
2-year sentence for the felony firearm charge,
Ain't enough.
with all of these sentences served
Ain't
concurrently.
enough.
While Michigan may not have the death penalty, Theodore's lawyer argued that the judge had basically given the then 55-year-old man a death sentence, as he's likely to spend the rest of his life paying for his actions. Just when it seemed that Theodore's case was officially put to rest, he made an appeal in 2015 to overturn his conviction. To the surprise of many, the Michigan Supreme Court heard Theodore's case and actually vacated his manslaughter conviction. In Michigan, the second-degree murder statute requires that the defendant acted with malice, whereas the manslaughter charge implies that the defendant didn't. Seeing the contradiction in these convictions, the court determined that having both convictions was a violation of Theodore's rights. With one of his convictions vacated, there was a slight chance that Theodore could come out of this with a shorter sentence. However, at his resentencing on June 22, 2022, the judge stated there were strong reasons for Theodore's original sentencing and gave him 15 to 30 years
Straight
for
up.
second-degree murder. While he may no longer have the manslaughter conviction, ultimately Theodore will serve the same amount of time behind bars.
That's good, bro.